Hey guys, welcome back to History for Sleep. Have you ever wondered what doctors used to cure pain 3,000 years before modern medicine existed? Candle. Tonight, we journey into a world where priests were surgeons, honey was a miracle drug, and curses could cause illness. From the tombs of Egypt to the temples of Greece, discover the strange and sacred medical secrets our ancestors believed could heal the body and the soul. But before you get comfortable and let your mind drift into this ancient world, I'd love it if you could take a gentle moment to like this video and subscribe. Only if these calm stories of the past bring you peace. Your support truly helps me grow and keep making these calm journey through time just for you. And in the comments, let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always so wonderful to see our little community listening together from all corners of the world, quietly sharing these stories across space and time. So, settle in, dim the light, maybe turn on the fan, take a slow breath, and let us step softly into the world of ancient history. Now let's begin. The night is quiet now. The Nile drifts softly under a silver moon, its dark waters carrying whispers from a civilization older than almost any other. The air is warm and still, heavy with the scent of lotus flowers and burning myrrh. Along the riverbanks, where the reeds sway lazily, small oil lamps flicker like stars fallen to earth. And in the distance, the deep, rhythmic chanting of temple priests rises and fades with the breeze. You are in ancient Egypt, a land where healing is not just a practice, but a prayer. To fall ill here is not simply to be sick. It is to fall out of harmony with the gods, to let some unseen balance of life slip away. And to be healed is to be realigned with the divine. Imagine walking through the tall, carved gates of a temple devoted to Thoth, the god of wisdom, writing, and medicine. The walls glow with hieroglyphs, bright colors of ochre, blue, and green still alive despite the centuries. Incense curls through the air. You hear the distant rustle of linen, the faint sound of sandals over stone. Inside, priests in white robes move slowly through the halls. They are not just priests, they are SWNW, the healers of Egypt. Some carry small papyrus scrolls, others mix herbs and oils in alabaster bowls. The temple itself is a kind of hospital, a sacred place where the physical and spiritual meet. When a patient comes here, the healer does not ask only, "Where does it hurt?" He asks, "What has offended the gods?" Because to the Egyptians, sickness often came from imbalance, from a curse, a restless spirit, or even a displeased deity. Healing, therefore, meant restoring cosmic order. Among all the gods and spirits of Egypt, one figure stands above the rest in the realm of healing, Imhotep. He began not as a god, but as a man, an architect, physician, and priest who served Pharaoh Djoser more than 4,000 years ago. Imhotep was a genius of his age, designing the step pyramid of Saqqara, one of the earliest monumental stone buildings on Earth. But his legend grew far beyond stone. Over time, Stories spread that Imhotep could cure any illness, that he understood the secrets of life itself. People whispered that he knew how to mend bones, heal wounds, and ease pain through sacred knowledge. Centuries after his death, temples were built in his name. Pilgrims came from across Egypt, leaving offerings of bread, oils, and small carved figures of limbs, symbols of the parts they hoped he would heal. They slept in his temples, hoping to dream of Imhotep, to receive divine instructions for their cure. In the stillness of those sanctuaries, it was said that Imhotep himself would appear in dreams, whispering the right medicine or ritual. And when dawn came, the priests interpreted those dreams, turning divine visions into treatments. To the Egyptians, healing was a dialogue between the patient, the healer, and the gods themselves. The healers of the Nile did not separate magic from medicine. To them, words had power. Spoken language was a living force. The right phrase, said in the right way, could drive away evil or restore life. They believed that illness might come from a demon or spirit invading the body, or from a curse placed by an enemy. So healers combined physical treatment with incantations. A poultice of honey and herbs might be applied to a wound, but alongside it, the healer would chant, "Run away, disease, flee from the flesh. The god Horus commands you. The magic of Isis heals you." These words were not metaphorical, they were medicine. The healer's voice, steady and rhythmic, carried its own kind of power, meant to soothe both the body and the spirit. Magic, to the Egyptians, was not trickery or superstition. It was Heka, a divine energy woven into the fabric of the universe. Every healer was trained to use it responsibly, to balance the physical and the mystical. If you could step closer to an ancient Egyptian physician at work, you might be surprised by how familiar some of their tools look. In a small wooden box beside him are bronze scalpels, needles, forceps, and spoons, instruments carefully crafted and cleaned. The Egyptians practiced wound stitching, splinting broken bones, and even minor surgery. They used honey as a natural antiseptic, long before anyone knew of bacteria. They packed wounds with linen soaked in resins or oils, creating dressings that kept out infection and sped up healing. When a patient had a fever, the healer might mix willow bark, which contains salicin, a compound similar to aspirin. For stomach pain, he might use garlic, coriander, or juniper berries. For burns, milk, honey, and aloe were common remedies. But all of this was done under divine guidance. Every action, every mixture, was a prayer. The healer might whisper the name of Isis, the goddess who healed her husband Osiris after he was slain. Or he might invoke Sekhmet, the lion-headed goddess of plague and protection, asking her to turn her wrath away. In larger temples, there existed a special chamber known as the Per-Ankh, or House of Life. It was part library, part medical school, and part laboratory. Here, scrolls filled with medical formulas, spells, and anatomical notes were stored carefully in clay jars. Some of the most famous papyri, like the Ebers Papyrus and the Edwin Smith Papyrus, came from such places. They contained hundreds of remedies, instructions for treating wounds, diagnosing illnesses, and even helping childbirth. The tone of these texts is both clinical and mystical. One section might describe how to set a broken bone with bandages and honey. Another might explain how to drive away an evil wind that causes disease. The healers who studied these scrolls were trained to read both meanings, the literal and the symbolic. They learned to treat the patient's body, but also their fate, their spirit, their connection to the gods. The Egyptian healer was both scientist and priest. He understood the anatomy of the body. He knew where to make an incision, how to drain a wound, how to stop bleeding. But he also knew the names of demons that caused fever and the hymns that could calm them. When a patient was brought to him, the healer often began with diagnosis by observation. He might look at the color of the skin, the clarity of the eyes, the pulse at the wrist. He might smell the breath to detect illness, or ask the patient. Even death was not an end, but a transformation. The soul simply moving into another form of existence. And so, healing was part of a much larger cosmic cycle. To heal the body was to maintain Ma'at, the sacred harmony that kept the world in order. As the stars turned slowly over the dark horizon, you can almost imagine a patient lying near the temple of Imhotep. The air hums with the quiet murmur of the Nile, and a priest sits beside the bed, whispering prayers. He dips a reed pen into ink, writing words of healing on a small scrap of papyrus. Then, he dissolves the ink in cool water and gives it to the patient to drink, believing that by swallowing the written words, the cure enters the body. It's part ritual, part remedy, and somehow deeply human, because beneath all the layers of faith and mystery, these ancient healers shared the same desire we have today: to ease pain, to comfort, to restore life. When Greek scholars like Herodotus later visited Egypt, they marveled at how advanced the Egyptians were. They had specialists for each part of the body, eye doctors, dentists, even surgeons. Their understanding of hygiene and herbal medicine influenced generations that followed. And though their cures might seem strange to us now, crocodile dung, charms, or prayers, many of their ideas laid the foundations for later science. They saw the body as part of the universe, not apart from it. They believed healing required not just knowledge, but reverence. In that, perhaps, they were right. As night deepens over the desert, the last lamps in the temple of Imhotep flicker out. The priests close their scrolls, the Nile flows on, and the stars above shimmer like the eyes of the gods, watching over those who sleep, those who heal, and those who dream. Sleep now, as the ancient healers once did, knowing that somewhere between mystery and medicine, between prayer and science, lies the quiet heart of healing. The ancient Egyptians did not see the human being as a single entity of flesh and bone, but as a constellation of living forces. The body was only one part of a vast spiritual map that included the Ka, the Ba, the Ak, and the Shadow, each playing a role in the miracle of life. The Ka was the life energy, the vital spark breathed into a person at birth by the gods. The Ba was the roaming personality, capable of leaving the body in dreams or death, while the Ak was the transfigured spirit that ascended to the realm of eternity. Health meant harmony between these parts. When the Ka flowed freely, when the Ba returned safely after sleep, and when the Ak was at peace. Illness, on the other hand, was a disturbance in this cosmic balance. A fever could mean the Ba had wandered too far. A limp might signal that the Ka was weakened or blocked. Healing, therefore, required not only treating the body, but guiding the soul back to its rightful rhythm. In temples and homes alike, the Egyptians believed that only when the inner forces were reunited could the body truly be well. And when death came, the healer's role was to help those same forces find their way to the afterlife unharmed. At the heart of Egyptian life lay Ma'at, the sacred law of balance that governed the stars, the floods of the Nile, and the human heart. Every act of life, from sowing a seed to healing a wound, was expected to uphold this balance. Sickness, then, was not merely a biological mishap. It was a fracture in the divine order. When the Nile failed to flood, famine followed. When the body failed to flow in harmony, disease appeared. Healers were thus seen as restorers of Ma'at, bringing the sick person back into alignment with the rhythm of the cosmos. In many temple inscriptions, the act of healing is described as restoring what was lost, a sacred repair not only of muscle and bone, but of truth and spirit. The healer might offer prayers to Sekhmet, the fierce lion-headed goddess of plague, asking her to temper her wrath and restore calm. He might whisper invocations to Isis, who resurrected her slain husband Osiris through words of power. Each prayer, each touch of ointment, was an attempt to mend the threads of existence itself. To heal one body was, in a sense, to help keep the world from unraveling, a quiet partnership between human hands and the eternal order of the gods. When a patient sought help, the healer began with purification, not as superstition, but as preparation for the sacred task ahead. Before touching the sick, the healer would wash in the waters of the Nile, symbol of divine renewal. He would rinse his mouth, cleanse his hands, and sometimes even burn incense to clear the air of unseen impurities. The patient, too, might be washed or anointed, wrapped in fresh linen, or surrounded by symbols of protection like the Eye of Horus. The room would be dim, the air heavy with the scent of frankincense and myrrh, believed to link earth with heaven. The healer's voice, calm and steady, would begin to chant prayers that served as both spell and meditation. Come, O breath of life, one chant reads, fill the limbs, restore the heart, awaken the Ka that sleeps. In this sacred atmosphere, healing became a ceremony of realignment. The rhythm of washing, the perfume of oils, the murmured words all work together to remind the body of its divine origin, to reawaken what the Egyptians called the inner order of life. Even before a single herb was given, the patient was already being soothed, their senses lulled into harmony with the world's eternal rhythm, their spirit gently coaxed back toward balance. To the Egyptians, words were alive. Spoken language carried the same power that shaped creation itself. They called it Heka, the divine magic that allowed gods and men alike to command reality. Healers trained not only in medicine, but in the precise art of recitation, learning which words could cure fever, ease childbirth, or repel demons of illness. Many medical papyri record these verbal charms written in careful ink, to be read aloud or sometimes dissolved in water and swallowed. Azra rises and darkness flees. One incantation says, "So let this sickness fade from the flesh of man." The repetition of such phrases was not unlike a lullaby, rhythmic, measured, designed to bring calm as much as cure. And perhaps that was the point. The patient, half dreaming beneath the sound of sacred words, might already begin to feel better, their heart steadier, their pain dulled by faith and rhythm. Whether through psychology or divinity, these spoken spells connected mind and body in ways modern science is only beginning to rediscover. The Egyptians, without knowing of neurons or hormones, understood something timeless, that healing begins with belief, and belief often begins with the whisper of a word. Sleep was considered another realm of medicine, a place where the soul could travel and speak with the divine. Many Egyptian healers encouraged their patients to rest in sacred spaces, especially temples of Imhotep or Serapis, where dreams were thought to reveal cures. A patient might sleep on a mat beneath the gaze of a statue, surrounded by incense and soft chanting. During the night, they might dream of a god offering a potion, or of a serpent slithering away, both symbols of healing. In the morning, temple priests interpreted these dreams, prescribing herbs, baths, or rituals based on their meaning. In this way, healing became a conversation between the sleeping soul and the unseen world. The Egyptians believed that illness could hide in the spirit as much as in the body, and that only by traveling inward, through dreams, prayer, or meditation, could one truly be cured. Even the simplest folk remedies sometimes came with dream instructions. Sleep with this charm beneath your head, and you shall see what must be done. It was medicine guided by the language of the subconscious. Calm, intuitive, and deeply human. Not all illness was random. Many Egyptians believed that disease could be divine punishment, a signal that a person had violated moral or cosmic law. A dishonest merchant might develop sores. A disrespectful child might fall ill with fever. But just as the gods could punish, they could also forgive. Healing rituals often included confession or acts of penance, a symbolic cleansing of guilt as much as the body. Offerings of bread, beer, or incense were made at shrines, and prayers of apology spoken aloud. Sometimes the patient wore amulets inscribed with words of repentance, carried close to the skin to remind both self and spirit of the promise to live rightly. The goal was not fear, but reconciliation, a return to harmony with the divine order. And when healing finally came, it was seen not only as recovery, but as renewal, the gods' acknowledgement that balance had been restored. In this sense, medicine in Egypt was not separate from morality. To live well, to speak truth, to respect the laws of Ma'at. All these were forms of preventive care, keeping both body and spirit aligned with the pulse of the cosmos. Even death was part of healing's circle. When the body failed and the spirit departed, the rituals that followed were designed not to end life, but to continue it in another form. Embalming, for instance, was considered a sacred medical act, the ultimate treatment ensuring that the Ka would recognize its body and the Ba could return safely each night. The priests who performed mummification were often the same class of ritual healers, carefully preserving the organs, cleansing the flesh, and wrapping it in linen inscribed with protective words. Every gesture echoed the belief that health was eternal, that what was healed in life could endure in death. To the Egyptians, the boundary between doctor and priest blurred completely here. In tending to the dead, they were also healing the living, reassuring families that their loved one's soul was intact and that their own spirits, too, were under divine care. This seamless connection between medicine and immortality gave their civilization a profound calmness in the face of mortality, a quiet confidence that no illness, no injury, could ever truly end the journey of the soul. As night deepened along the banks of the Nile, you might imagine an old healer sitting beside a fading oil lamp, writing softly on papyrus. The words are not hurried. They are careful, deliberate, each one shaped by belief. Outside, the wind carries the scent of water and stone, of temples and time. For the Egyptians, health was never just about survival. It was about harmony, about living in rhythm with the eternal. The same balance that guided the stars guided their hearts. And perhaps that is why their medicine endured, because it was built on reverence, not fear, on the belief that life itself was sacred, and that healing was the act of remembering that truth. When you look at the ancient scrolls today, the words may seem distant, the ingredients strange. Honey, milk, crocodile dung, incantations. But beneath them beats something timeless, the desire to comfort, to mend, to bring peace to another soul. That longing is as old as humanity itself. As the last light fades and the Nile flows quietly into the dark, you can almost hear the echo of their prayers, soft, steady, eternal, a lullaby for the living and the dead alike. When we speak of Egyptian medicine, we must imagine a world of fragrant oils, murmured prayers, and papyrus scrolls filled with looping hieroglyphs that tried to capture the mystery of the human body. Medicine was not stored in sterile bottles or measured in precise doses. It was alive, carried in the hands of healers